The show begins in Paris in 1967 with a chess prodigy named Beth Harmon waking up in her hotel room. The other night she had partied really hard and fell asleep in the bath. She suddenly remembers that it is her big day to compete against a man, so she rushes downstairs. As Beth heads to the hotel lobby, she keeps her composure as paparazzi flash cameras in front of her. After a while, she approaches her rival, and the two prepare to play. As she looks the man in the eye, we see a glimpse of Beth's past. In a flashback, we see a 9-year-old Beth surviving a horrific car accident on a bridge. However, her mother died that day. The young Beth is now orphaned as her father disappeared long ago. She is sent to an orphanage where the warden shows her around. She also encourages the little girl to have faith and continue progressing in life. Later, Beth is instructed to stand in a line where other students are waiting for their turn to receive some sort of vitamin pills. She befriends a student named Jolene and the two chat around for a bit. Shortly after, Beth takes the pills and immediately feels spaced out. She even starts struggling to walk around. Jolene notices this and reveals that she needs to wait until night to eat the vitamins. During class the following day, Beth is sent to the basement to clean some board dusters. There, she notices a janitor named Mr. Scheibel playing chess and becomes curious. Beth stares at him for a while before heading upstairs. That evening, while the students have lined up to get their vitamins, Jolene shows Beth how to hide the pills inside her mouth. The little girl does as told, and she successfully sneaks the pills away. Before going to bed, she finally takes the pill and starts getting zoned out again. At one point, she even hallucinates a chessboard on the ceiling of her room. Days pass by, and her curiosity for the game keeps on increasing. She regularly visits the basement and watches Mr. Scheibel play chess all by himself. But one day, desperate to learn the game, Beth finally talks to him and requests that he teach her chess. However, the janitor simply says, "Girls do not play chess." This upsets Beth, but nonetheless, she calms herself and demonstrates how much she's learned already just by watching his moves from afar. Beth explains how each of the pieces work and even talks about a few tricks. This impresses Mr. Scheibel, and he finally allows her to play a game. Unsurprisingly, he beats her quite easily. That evening, after Beth eats her vitamin pills, she again starts imagining the chess pieces, but this time she can calculate the moves and practice alone. The next few days, Beth continues to play chess against Mr. Scheibel. In the process, she learns different strategies and tricks. Beth's chess skills are further sharpened when she reimagines the moves on her ceiling at night. This leads to an eventual breakthrough as Beth beats her master, Mr. Scheibel, for the first time. Slowly, she begins to defeat him in every game, realizing that she may be the real deal. Scheibel continues to teach her different formations and variations of chess. All the while, Beth stores up her green pills to take in the evening. She even learns the popular chess move, the Queen's Gambit. One day, Beth heads to the basement as usual and finds an unknown man there. Mr. Scheibel introduces him as Mr. Gons from a chess club. He has come all the way from another city to play with her. Surprisingly, Beth beats him easily. Clearly impressed by her moves, Mr. Gons asks her where she practices, and the little girl replies, "I play in my head." Following this, Beth takes up a more difficult challenge. She plays both Scheibel and Gons at once with two separate chessboards. The odds are completely stacked against her, but to everyone's surprise, she wins both games convincingly. The following morning, Beth is called into the warden's office. Upon reaching there, she sees Mr. Gons and the warden having a meeting. Mr. Gons wants Beth to join a chess club at a high school every Thursday. He wants her to play everyone simultaneously. Since there are rarely girls playing chess, this would be a great opportunity for both Beth and the orphanage. The warden thinks about it for a while and approves it, much to the delight of Mr. Gons. Afterwards, Beth goes to get her vitamin doses but learns that the orphanage has changed their pills. This worries her, as she has become addicted to the pills. In a sign of desperation, she approaches Jolene to ask for some of hers. The latter tells her that she's only having withdrawal symptoms. The next day, Beth heads to the chess club, but she isn't in a good mood because of the absence of the pills that she so depends on. But fortunately, as she is about to leave, Jolene gives her a couple of pills and wishes her good luck. Shortly after, Beth reaches the high school where a group of chess-playing boys are present. They are surprised to see a girl and keep staring at her. "Dude, put down the pawns, is that a female?" We learn that Beth has to play all of the boys at once. This is likely the kinkiest thing these boys will ever do. As she takes them all on, a crowd of students gathers. They are eager to witness the girl getting humiliated. However, to everyone's shock, Beth outplays every single opponent and ends all the matches inside an hour and 20 minutes. Later, she proudly tells Mr. Scheibel what happened. Despite her brilliance, Beth's dependence on vitamin pills forces her to act desperately. During a movie night, she pretends to go to the bathroom, but breaks into the orphanage pharmacy. She then starts stealing pills and gobbles them up like candy. After a while, she grabs the entire pill jar and heads out. Beth wants to hide it in her room, but unfortunately, before she can move, she collapses due to vitamin overdose. The teachers and students arrive at the same time and catch her in the act. In the next scene, Beth is being punished for stealing the vitamin pills. From today on, she is forbidden to practice chess at the high school. Upset, she approaches Mr. Scheibel and informs him about the punishment. She then wishes to continue playing chess with him. As the years pass, Jolene and Beth become close friends. They're now the eldest in the orphanage. One morning, Jolene reaches for a cigarette and heads to the balcony. As Beth gets up from bed, she joins Jolene, and both of them spot a car entering the orphanage grounds. A couple, whom we know as Mr. and Mrs. Whitley, has come to adopt a child. Later, the warden calls every single student to her office, and the Whitleys interview them. At last, it's Beth's turn, and she manages to captivate them with her beauty and charm. Once the interview is over, she is asked to pack her belongings. Beth is officially adopted. This takes her over the moon, but she is also sad because she won't be playing with Mr. Scheibel again. Later, Beth arrives at her new house, and the Whitleys show her around. When they take her to her room, Beth is astounded by how much space she will have for herself. The next day, she wakes up to the Wheatleys having an argument about work-related matters. Mr. Wheatley is about to leave on a business trip and will be gone for 2 weeks. We learn that the couple isn't happy with their marriage. Beth heads off for her first day of school and starts her life as a normal teenager. Not surprisingly, she doesn't fit in with the kinds of girls within the school. Most of them make fun of her poor choice of clothes. To make matters worse, Beth finds out that there is no chess club in this school. The next day, Mrs. Wheatley takes Beth to get some new clothes. There, she sees some chess sets, but Mrs. Wheatley refuses to buy her one as they are short on money. Instead, she wants Beth to start saving bit by bit from her 40-cent allowance so that she can buy one for herself. One day, Mrs. Wheatley asks Beth to get her some packs of cigarettes from the local convenience store. Obliging to the request, Beth heads out and retrieves the cigarettes. But, as she is about to leave the store, she sees a magazine related to chess. However, the store owner doesn't let her read it for free. She needs to buy it. Beth obviously has no money, so she steals the magazine. Once home, Mrs. Wheatley mentions that there isn't enough money to run the house until the end of the month. They only get $70 from her husband, which is far less than they need. How did these people pass the adoption exam? Hearing her worries, Beth comes up with an idea. She wants to take part in a chess competition, the winner of which will receive $100. There is a small catch though. The entry fee is $5. Beth requests Mrs. Wheatley to lend her some cash, but the latter straight away refuses. Left with no choice, Beth writes a letter to Mr. Scheibel, asking for $5 to enter the chess tournament. She also mentions that she will pay him back double the amount when she wins the tournament. As she is about to send the letter, Mrs. Wheatley asks her to run out for another errand. This time, it is for a prescription. Beth once again obliges, and when she gets the pills, she realizes that they are the same ones that the orphanage used to provide. Later, Mrs. Wheatley mentions that it is her tranquility medicine. Beth hands her the pill bottle, but it is only half full, as she had already taken the other half for herself. Now that she is reunited with her vitamin pills, Beth again begins to practice chess on the ceiling. The next day, she gets a letter from Mr. Scheibel. As expected, he has sent her the $5. With this, Beth immediately enters the chess tournament, but when she reaches the venue, the organizers tell her that there's no women's section. They also make fun of her and tell her to go away. However, Beth is determined, and she asserts that there is no law that states a girl cannot play chess. Because of the rant, the organizers reluctantly set her up on the beginner's list. Beth's first opponent is a girl, and she defeats her quickly. Afterwards, she watches state champions play each other. Second round, Beth beats her opponent, and even forces him to resign. Before ending the day, she has to play against a boy named Towns. He is a charming man, so Beth keeps on staring at him during the game. However, this doesn't distract her from the game, and she easily beats him. Despite the defeat, Towns is genuinely impressed with how good she is for her age. When she returns home, Beth finds Mrs. Wheatley's room turned into a rack. Apparently, her husband left her and only informed her over the phone. The next day, Beth returns to the tournament to face her last opponent, Harry Beltic, the state champion. We learn that Harry has arrogance about him. He is so sure that he will win the finals that he arrives late to the tournament. After the game commences, Harry immediately gets on the front foot by displaying some impressive moves. Feeling the pressure, Beth heads to the bathroom and pops a pill to ease her nerves. She then returns with more confidence and puts up a good fight. At last, she eventually beats Harry and wins the whole tournament. Because of this, Beth becomes a sensation in the local papers of Kentucky. She wins $100 and heads home with the check. This delights Mrs. Wheatley, and she finally starts to acknowledge Beth's skills. It turns out that she didn't know the game could pay so much. The following day, Mrs. Wheatley conducts an ardent and learns that a chess tournament with prize money of $500 is going to commence soon in Cincinnati. She informs Beth about it, but the latter is worried that she will miss school. Fortunately, Mrs. Wheatley takes care of this by lying to the principal that her daughter is sick. With this, Beth agrees to participate in the chess tournament. She then confidently asserts that she will win. Next morning, we see Beth and her mother arriving in Cincinnati for the state tournament. Even here, she is well known by all the people. They call her the female genius. Wow, even the compliments are misogynistic. Her first opponent is a nervous player who knows her well. Before a game even starts, he admits defeat and wishes her good luck. What was that guy even doing here? The organizers from the earlier tournament also show up to support Beth, as they have now become her #1 fan. They have a discussion about participating in the US Open. After that, they talk about the idea of playing in a Russian tournament. However, they are skeptical because it is believed that the Russians are way better than the Americans at chess. In the next scene, Beth wins the Cincinnati tournament and gives her mother 15% of the prize money as a commission. As time passes, she goes on to win various other tournaments around the US. Our chess prodigy is now more and more popular and draws attention. She is even interviewed by journalists in her field. In an interview, Beth reveals that she discovered chess in the basement of her orphanage. She also explains that a janitor named Mr. Scheibel showed her some moves. Beth also adds that her great ability in chess comes from the fact that she can predict how a game will evolve, and therefore play the right way in order to win. 3 years pass, and we see Beth arriving in Las Vegas in 1966. She is now a prosperous woman who has the world at her feet. There, she meets Towns, the charming opponent she met in Cincinnati. Towns is now working as a magazine reporter, and he is here to write reviews on the chess tournament. He wishes to write an article about Beth and invites her to his room to snap some photos for the paper. Beth agrees to follow him on the condition that they play chess after the work is finished. God, chess is so hot right now. Once they arrive, it is evident that there is some chemistry between them. They are almost about to kiss, but unfortunately, Towns' roommate arrives and ruins the moment. In the next scene, Beth returns to her hotel room and finds her mother drinking, grabbing a bottle herself. Beth talks about her tournament, including her nervousness towards US champion Benny Watts. He always has a crowd around him and certainly knows how to play. Later that day, Beth runs into Benny himself, who discusses game strategy. The US champion points out an error that Beth made a few years ago. He explains that the previous player she faced could have beaten her. This revelation certainly rattles Beth, and the most annoying thing is the fact that Benny deduced her errors simply by reading the report of the game. The following day, Beth has to play the final game with Benny. Although she manages to keep a cool demeanor, she begins to panic, eventually leading to her first ever loss. Beth is upset about her incapacity to foresee what her opponent wanted to do. Despite this, she still gets a share of the prize money. Just before Beth and her mother leave Las Vegas, Towns rushes after her and states that she'll have another chance to face Benny in the future. The moral of the story is, if you want to be great at a game,